Hey everybody, it's KevRA. That's me, I'm KevRA, and if you don't know that by now, well, that actually makes a lot of sense because I only have like 350 subscribers, so yeah, let's face it, you don't know me, that's fine. So yeah, I'm KevRA. Hello. So a few months ago, everyone with a gaming channel on YouTube predicted what would be at the Nintendo June Direct. We predicted things like a new Donkey Kong game, Pikmin 4, even Breath of the Wild 2. We gave our best guesses for the Summer Direct. And man, were we way off because Nintendo didn't even do one. Now, that's not technically true. They did do a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct and a mini partner showcase. And then people got really upset because Nintendo didn't do a general direct, even though I feel like they didn't do it because they didn't have any big reveal. I mean, it's very clear that they aren't going to announce another really big game that's coming out towards the end of the year unless it's something like a remake or a port. For example, that rumored Metroid Prime remake, or perhaps the port of The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Both of these are great, but at the same time, they're old games, they're games we've played before. It's not a really big, awesome way to close out a direct. And maybe Nintendo's original plan was to close out the Direct with Breath of the Wild 2 because it was coming out at the end of 2022, but then it got pushed back into 2023, and so they didn't really have that one extra big first-party Nintendo game. I mean, yeah, there's Pokemon, but Pokemon is usually announced by the Pokemon Company. And yeah, they got Mario and Rabbids, but that's a Ubisoft game. And yeah, they could have showed us something that's not coming out in 2022, but coming out in 2023 or even 2024. But I, for one, am glad that they didn't do that because I hate it whenever game companies announce something so early and then I have to wait years and years and years. Like, just think about this. If you were about to be a freshman in either high school or college when Nintendo announced Breath of the Wild 2, you're finally getting to play that game as you graduate. Yeah, have fun going to all your little graduation parties and ceremonies, knowing you could be at home playing Breath of the Wild 2. I showed up 3 hours late to my friend's birthday party because it was the same day that Mario Kart 8 came out. If it was Breath of the Wild 2, yeah, no chance I would have gone. But because Nintendo didn't do their big general direct in the month of June alongside of E3, which also didn't happen this summer, I now see people saying one of two things. They either believe that a big Nintendo Direct is coming in September because they didn't do one this past summer, or they look at how Nintendo has been dropping things left and right on Twitter, whether it's that new Kirby game, Mario Kart 8 DLC, Bayonetta 3's release date, and they say to themselves, well, you know what, Nintendo could just keep doing that. They don't need a big direct. In fact, in some ways, the Twitter drops are a lot better because when a giant direct happens, people only talk about the really big things that got announced because that's what people are the most excited for. So when you see the really big, cool, awesome thing next to all these really cool but kind of small, insignificant things, they kind of get lost in the haze. But when you do Twitter drops, when you separate it from those really big things, they get their own little day in the sun. Like if Nintendo had done a big general direct this past summer and they had that $20 Kirby game inside of it, I feel like it wouldn't have been talked about as much because it's a smaller title. Like, yeah, it has Kirby in it, but it's a digital only game and it's only like, what, 15, 20 bucks? Like if you put that next to Breath of the Wild 2 or Metroid Prime 4 or announced Super Mario Odyssey 2 for late 2023, that would have been the thing that most people talked about. On the other hand, not everybody lives on the internet. And if you do, your mental health is probably in great danger. Not everyone is going to pay attention to those small drops here and there. It's going to have a harder time reaching that casual audience because that casual audience does not follow a bunch of gaming channels or news sites. But they might watch a Nintendo Direct. Or at the very least, the Nintendo Direct is so big that it does pop up in their feed, and so they look at the list of everything Nintendo announced or even watch the Direct. And that's how they find out about these smaller titles. Now, my point to all of this is that Nintendo could really go either which way. But personally, I feel like they're gonna do a September Direct. Maybe they'll even change it up and do an October Direct this year. But I do think one is coming, and I think that fans like that more than just the random Twitter drops. I mean, I'm not someone who hates the Twitter drops because I do like the fact that over a few months, we're gonna get this drop and this drop and this drop. We're gonna get this announcement and this announcement, and I find that really cool. Like I wake up, I get on Twitter or YouTube, and all of a sudden I see that Nintendo has announced whatever, and I'm like, oh, hey, cool, wasn't expecting that, all right. But it's not as cool because I see the thumbnail, I see the title, and so I already know what's coming, even if I didn't expect it to happen that day. But that's the cool thing about a general direct, is the fact that you're sitting there and you don't know what you're about to watch until suddenly it starts happening. Like, yeah, you know stuff is coming, but there's a buildup, there's an anticipation of like what's gonna happen next. And even when they start to reveal it, maybe you don't quite know what it is, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, it's that, yes! However, I don't just speculate a Nintendo Direct is coming because of my personal feelings. The big reason is because we don't know anything about 2023 aside from Breath of the Wild 2. And you know that game specifically they'll want to talk about sooner rather than later. Like, I honestly just can't see them waiting until the February Direct to talk about a game that's coming out March, April, maybe even May. Like, there's no way they're gonna wait that long to announce the release date. And that information just seems a little bit too big for just some random Twitter drop. And I also can't see them having a direct specifically just for Breath of the Wild 2. For Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it made sense because, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles is not a huge franchise. So having an entire direct catered towards Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to get people interested in it makes sense. It also made a lot of sense for Splatoon 3, strictly because of the fact that it's multiplayer and it's also a very popular game in Japan. Zelda, on the other hand, is always a franchise that they play relatively close to the chest. Like, I can't see them doing a giant 20-minute direct where they're just spoiling the game for us. So that's why I see it being in a general direct, which means either this fall or next spring. And since spring seems too late, this fall seems very likely to me. And once again, I can't think of a single game that's been announced for the beginning of 2023. So unless Breath of the Wild 2 is the only game that they have coming out at the beginning of 2023, it feels like they need to be making some announcements very soon. So with all that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about what we might see at this potential fall direct. Now, a lot of this stuff I don't want to go into great detail over because I already said a lot of it when I was predicting the June direct. So if you watch that direct, a lot of this stuff is gonna sound similar, so I'm not gonna beat you over the head with it. Like, I already talked about the Wind Waker going into its 20th anniversary this December, so I think that has a pretty good chance, although it really depends on when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. Like, even though Nintendo has been trying to put out a Legend of Zelda game every single year, maybe they don't want to put out Wind Waker just a few months before Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. And I think another factor that weighs into it is whether or not Breath of the Wild 2 will get DLC, because if it gets DLC, that's gonna go throughout the rest of 2023 probably, which is why they would release the Wind Waker this winter. That way it doesn't overlap with Breath of the Wild 2 DLC. But if Breath of the Wild 2 has no DLC, I could see them waiting to release the Wind Waker later on its 20th anniversary as opposed to right at the start, which means next winter or next fall instead. The other old game people are talking about is the Metroid Prime remake that's been rumored for so long. Insiders say it's already finished. In fact, one particular insider is definitely saying it's coming out by the end of this year. Personally, I feel like it makes more sense that Wind Waker would be at the end of the year and then Metroid Prime would be at the beginning of next year. But who knows, maybe these GameCube classics are coming out back to back. One's November, one's December. And then in January, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Oh my god, I'm kidding. I know people want this game remade all the time, and I don't know why. It's perfect the way it is. Like, it looks glorious on the GameCube. It is the game that has aged the best on the GameCube. So like, you're not gonna do much improvement, like, and especially not gameplay wise. Like, they're just gonna add like stupid stuff like confetti. Like, you don't want them to touch this game. This game, you want them to touch all over because it desperately needs help. You can't make this worse. And since we're talking about old content, let's go ahead and talk about retro games for NSO. Now, previously, I had thought that we were gonna get another roadmap of Nintendo 64 games. And while I still hope that's true, I feel like instead, we'll get the Game Boy or Game Boy Advance or both. Crush the hopes and dreams of Nintendo 64 fans, check. It just kind of depends on how Nintendo wants to do it, because if they add the Game Boy to the basic NSO membership, then I could see them doing a roadmap for Game Boy games and Nintendo 64 games since they're a part of two different services. However, if they add Game Boy into the expansion pack, or if they add Game Boy into the basic membership and Game Boy Advance into the expansion pack at the same time, then it seems like from now on we'll just get Nintendo 64 games shadow dropped and we'll get a roadmap of the Game Boy, maybe Game Boy Advance, whatever the situation is. Honestly, I kind of have a lot of different thoughts on this. Because the Nintendo 64 games are three-dimensional, unlike the Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, maybe they hold off on Game Boy and Game Boy Advance one more year, and they do another roadmap for the Nintendo 64. And I could also see them wanting to do that because they want to raise the price of the service. But there's no way they would raise the price this year. They would wait one more year and then raise it like $10 or something. And it would probably have both Game Boy and Game Boy Advance because it is 10 extra bucks. But I don't think that's their play. And the reason I say that is because both Game Boy Advance and Nintendo 64 are very limited on games. And when it comes to the Game Boy, a lot of those games are in black and white. So I feel like because they're limited with content, it's gonna be more of what the original situation was when they did Nintendo, and then a year later they did Super Nintendo, and then they would just add games to both services, but the price stayed the same. Honestly, the only option that would absolutely shock me is if they just don't even talk about it. They don't announce the Game Boy or Game Boy Advance, and they don't even give us a Nintendo 64 roadmap. But maybe they don't do that because they have one big, giant announcement coming to the expansion pack. Mario Party Superstars DLC. Why are you walking away? Hold on. Alright, I already posted a video that talked all about that, so I'm not going to go into it again. Just know that Splatoon 3 or Mario Party Superstars DLC, I believe, will get announced at this Direct. If you want to hear me explain why, there's a link in the corner. However, I do want to talk a little bit more about DLC, but it has nothing to do with paid DLC or the expansion pack or anything like that. Last spring, they said that golf was coming to Nintendo Switch Sports this autumn. Would you look at that, it's autumn. So I guarantee they will be talking about it at this Direct. Personally, as someone who really loves Wii Golf, I'm really looking forward to this, but I'm more looking forward to what else they're going to say. Like, is Nintendo Switch Sports done? Or will they be doing more free updates? Or would they even make the really weird choice of starting to do paid DLC now? Like, I've seen people asking, where's boxing, where's baseball, where's this, where's that? And at the very least, I absolutely 100% think we should get Frisbee golf. Like, we already have the golf courses, now just give us the ability to throw Frisbees instead of hit balls. And that's a big reason why I don't think they're gonna be switching over to paid DLC. I mean, I guess they could for the other sports, but we also don't even know if there are other sports. Personally, I feel like there should be, and I absolutely think they should be free. Maybe my mind will change whenever they finally add golf, but right now, I can honestly say that I don't think Nintendo Switch Sports was even worth the $50. Like, I enjoyed it, but between badminton, volleyball, and tennis, it all felt like a lot of the same stuff. With bowling and that sword fighting thing being the two big standouts. Maybe once golf finally arrives, I'll feel like it's a complete game. But when it first launched, I definitely felt like it needed updates. And as someone who really loved some of the other stuff in either Wii Sports or Wii Sports Resort, I hope that they bring some of those things and they continue to be free. Because just like all the Mario Sports games, Nintendo Switch Sports just was lacking in content. Which brings us to Mario Strikers Battle League, which I think will get mentioned briefly as they talk about the next free update, but it won't be like a big thing. So we've talked about old games, we've talked about DLC, what about new content? Well, I don't think we're gonna get a big brand new game announced for the end of the year, but we might get it announced for the beginning of next year. However, I don't think it'll be so big as like a Mario Odyssey 2. In fact, I don't see them announcing any type of Mario game. Like, I can't remember the last time a Mario game came out at the first of the year. And then after I got done recording this video, I remembered, oh yeah, this game came out in February. Instead of re-recording, I just decided to make fun of myself. So, hi self, you suck. But this February will be the 9th year we've gone without getting a brand new Donkey Kong game. So honestly, I think a new Donkey Kong game has a pretty good chance coming out sometime before Breath of the Wild 2. But at the same time, if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out like March, I feel like those would be two pretty big releases back to back. And since I feel like everyone is expecting Breath of the Wild 2 to come out in March, I kind of feel like it would be something smaller like a Star Fox or maybe even a Pikmin 4. But if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in like April or May, I could totally see them doing a Donkey Kong game in February. On the other hand, maybe there is no big brand new game announcement. Instead, it's just the Metroid Prime remake that comes out at the beginning of 2023. But then after they announce that game, the real big reveal is the fact that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out at the end of 2023. So they kind of announced a big new game, but at the same time, it's not coming out relatively soon. But at the same time, we are still getting a game from that franchise very soon. It's just the remake for right now, and then the new game comes out later that year. And honestly, that's kind of what I'm putting my money on right now. Like, not a lot of money, not like a good substantial amount of money, but like, you know, like Monopoly money, or I bet Boardwalk on it. If you're doing real money, it'd be like $1, $2. I put 5 on it, like 10, 20, 50. Let's do $100. Screw it. $100 million to the first person who wants to take this bet in the comments section. You win or out, don't be a little bitch. Another topic I wanted to cover very briefly is the possibility of new hardware. I know some of the insiders are saying it's coming in the first half of next year, but I don't think it's coming at this direct. We're still 4 months away from the brand new year, and I also don't see Nintendo releasing this new hardware in January or February. And since it seems incredibly unlikely that it's a next-gen console, due to the fact that Mario Kart 8 is still gonna get DLC up until the end of 2023, and Splatoon 3 is getting free updates for another 2 years, I definitely feel like whatever's coming out is for sure going to be some sort of revision. Now, if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in March, and the hardware launches alongside of it, I can actually see them possibly talking about it. But I feel like what they would do instead is talk about Breath of the Wild 2 coming out in March, and then a few weeks later, they announce this new revision and announce that, oh yeah, it's also coming out the same day as Breath of the Wild 2. I mean, that's basically the exact same situation they did for Metroid Dread and the Switch OLED. So unless they just want to fill time at this next Direct because they don't have a lot to talk about, I feel like they would wait until after this Direct, maybe even wait until the very next Direct if it doesn't come out until like May or something. Now, the one final thing I want to talk about is the potential of seeing anything new about the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I feel like we're gonna get a glimpse. Now, the only reason I'm a little bit doubtful is because normally a movie trailer gets released between 4 to 6 months prior to the release. And we already know they postponed the original release date because they wanted some more time to work on it. So maybe they're not gonna try to push it out for the Direct. Maybe they really wanna release it whenever they feel like they're very confident in it. But because they announced casting last year, and because they won't be able to debut the first trailer at the next Direct because that would be only 2 months prior to the movie, I'm gonna go ahead and be optimistic and say we do get a little piece of the Mario movie. Maybe it's not a full-length trailer. Maybe they just tease us with, you know, a small clip. Or a teaser where we see a few images and hear the actors portray the characters. I definitely think a full-length trailer is also in the cards, but the fact that we'll still be 7 months out makes me a little bit skeptical. However, one thing I'm not skeptical about is the fact that when people see this trailer, they're going to react badly to it. I guarantee it. Like, go ahead and get your shields and weapons ready, because I guarantee people are going to be fighting about this on the internet. In fact, I'm already assuming that I will be making a video on this topic because while I was caught off guard with the casting announcement just like everyone else, I also feel like people were way too cynical about it. So I'm sure while everyone else is posting videos about this is awful, how could they do this to Charles Martinet, I'll be posting a video being like, guys, it's fine, relax, chill out. And then I'll just be getting all the dislikes in the world because people are like, no, it's not okay, it's not fine. How dare they? But that wasn't this video, so don't be giving me all those dislikes yet. Unless, of course, you just didn't like this video, in which case, I guess that's fair. But if you liked the video, hit the like button. And if you want to see me talk about Paper Mario in my next video, hit subscribe. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.